Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. On the heels of her first professional loss, former WBC featherweight champion Sky Nicholson took to her social media and stated, "I took a step back to look within. My first career defeat hit hard, but it taught me more than any win ever could. I've sat with the lessons, faced the silence, and reignited the fire. I'll be back soon, sharper, stronger, and better than ever." Will it be in a rematch with Tiara Brown? It was reported that they did not have a rematch clause going into the fight, what some would describe as being negligent, because it is an industry standard these days for a champion to ensure they can run it back if things go sideways, where Sky doesn't have that option. It's likely going to cost them a pretty penny to get Tiara to give Sky a rematch because the roles are reversed. Tiara is the champion now, and she doesn't have to give Sky a rematch. So Eddie and Matchroom have to get the checkbook out. You have to pay to play. That's the way it is. If you are still invested in this fighter, one way or another, it's going to cost you something, because she's not a champion anymore. Can she win the rematch? Well, I don't think Tiara Brown beat her by much. That's saying that it wasn't a demoralizing loss to where Sky Nicholson got beat up and banged up and ragdolled. She just got outworked. A lot of what Tiara was throwing wasn't even really landing. A lot of those punches got blocked or missed completely, but because she was so much busier, so much more often in the fight, that was enough. Can Sky win a rematch? Really not sure, because what was missing from Sky is what has been missing from the moment she went pro, and that's inside game, the willingness to work in the pocket. So often, Sky's on the outside, on the move, long and limber. She's too accustomed to that. To where if it were easy to fight on the inside, she would have done it by now. So, in the potentiality of a rematch, I'm not sure that she can win it because that's what's missing, and that's what's been missing long before she fought Tiara Brown. I don't know if she can win a rematch in the event there is one. But she can win other fights. There are other fights out there with other champions, at least one, that I think Sky Nicholson can win. The IBF champion, Nina Menka, is about to defend her IBF title against Daniela Bermudez, who she's fighting for the second time. And if Nina wins that fight, and I think she's going to, Sky can beat her. She can beat Nina. Become IBF champion. And don't forget that Amandia Serrano still has 2 alphabet titles at this weight, but Amandia Serrano's career is winding down, and it's conceivable that this may be her final year in the sport of boxing. If it is, those 2 alphabet titles, she's gonna drop them. And Sky, if she works her way up the ranks, can fight for one of them. The Brown fight is proof of what I said before, that while Sky Nicholson thinks she's ready for Amanda Serrano, Amanda would crash the pocket and beat her up. From the moment she went pro, she made it her business to call out Amanda Serrano, and some people bought it, some people drunk the Kool-Aid because of her physical dimensions, her jab, and her movement. They actually thought she would be able to beat Amanda. I didn't. I've maintained Sky Nicholson ain't spending all that time on the outside because she's comfortable fighting on the inside. And all Amanda has to do is stay in character, walk her down, throw punches and bunches, and Sky will wilt. Sky will fold. But if Amanda don't knock her out, at minimum, she will outwork her. Now, you saw what Tiara Brown did. Amanda Serrano is much better on the inside and more dangerous than Tiara Brown. I've maintained for the longest time that Sky was not ready for that fight. but I did think she could beat Tiara, and I was wrong.
She didn't even make it past her.
All Tiara really did was dial it up a bit, just a smidge, so that she could be the consistently busier fighter, and that was enough.
Can Sky Nicholson change? Can she improve?
Yes, she can, but it's gonna take time. Now, I don't all of a sudden expect her to be able to fight mid-range to inside, and maybe she'll never be able to box at that range. Fighters have their preferences, and that's who they are. But the issue with Sky isn't just the range, it's the activity. It's the work rate. She doesn't do enough. She's too comfortable just landing 1 or 2 punches at a time where there could be a lot more going on. So be busier with the jab.
Jab in a straight, and make it straight. Because I notice when Sky brings over the backhand, she whacks girls over the side of the head with it instead of throwing it straight.
There's a lot more on the punch if you throw it straight. Shoot from the hip, right down the middle.
Be busier.
You can fight from a safe distance from afar and still be the busier fighter if you're busy with your lead, if you're busy with your jab.
There's more than one way to remedy the situation for Sky Nicholson. Ultimately, I think she's going to come back from this, and I think she's going to come back better, but I'm not sure it'll be against Tiara. Maybe against someone else.
What up, y'all? I'm driving real fast, but I just had to update y'all on something before it hit the news, or before it hit social media. We've been offered a fight with Abdullah Mason. Hell yeah, we accept that. $2.5 million. That's the price. So put the money on the wood, it all go good. Yesterday price ain't today's price, baby. Let's get this money, baby. Yes, we'll fight that brother. Put the money on the wood. He's with Turkey now and all them. Let's go. Jay Prince got money. Put that money up, y'all believe on y'all guy.
So it would seem that Floyd Schofield was offered another high-profile fight of sorts against an unbeaten up-and-comer, but not one as seasoned as Shakur Stevenson, who's already been a champion at 3 weights. He was offered a fight with a prospect like himself in Abdullah Mason.
$2.5 million to fight a prospect.
Call me crazy, but when Floyd Schofield Sr. says that yesterday's price is not today's price, it gives me the impression that they are now asking for more money to fight a less experienced fighter than Shakur.
Than what they stood to make had they fought Shakur.
Because he said that for a reason, that yesterday's price is not today's price. Is that saying that you're now asking for more money than you were asking for Shakur?
It sounds like it.
I once heard someone say that there are many ways to say no to a fight in the sport of boxing, and that's what this sounds like to me, that you don't want to say no outright for fear of being accused of ducking, so you will instead ask for a dollar amount you don't actually expect to get. That way, you don't have to fight. Yesterday it was announced that several of Top Rank's unbeaten up-and-comers, Abdullah Mason among them, have entered a partnership with Ring Magazine as brand ambassadors.
It's a part of the reason that Floyd Schofield brought up Turkey El Sheikh. He's expecting the money to come from him.
But the money for the Shakur Stevenson fight was coming from him, and I imagine it left a bad taste in Turkey's mouth how all of that worked out. That in the end, it looks like you guys didn't really want to fight, and you were just wasting everybody's time.
You were only pretending you wanted to fight Shakur Stevenson in place of William Zepeda so that the journos would write articles about you. What do the kids call it? Clout chasing? That's what you were doing. You didn't expect that it would get made as quickly as it did, because that's not what American fighters are used to. They're used to going back and forth on social media for weeks, for months, and sometimes for years before a fight happens. And I think that's what the Schofields were expecting.
They thought they could gain notoriety by attaching their name to the name of Shakur Stevenson, not expecting that a fight would get made so quickly.
So do you think Turkey El Sheikh wants to waste any more of his time on the Schofields to the tune of $2.5 million to fight a prospect?
Because that's what Abdullah Mason is. He's a prospect like Floyd is a prospect. And neither of these young fighters are in a place to where they main event a show and it generates $1 million, let alone 2.5. Because if what Floyd Schofield wants is 2.5 million, you then have to add on whatever Abdullah Mason is going to get, which could put the pot somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 million. And I'm sorry to say that in the open market, this is not a $5 million fight.
Well, isn't that what Turkey does? Overpay the fighters to ensure that fights happen?
It is, but he was already going to overpay Floyd Schofield. And look at what happened. So I don't know if he's going to want to waste any more time on these guys just for them to find a way out at the last minute. I think most people aren't realizing that the Shakur Stevenson fight was not the first time that Floyd Schofield pulled out of a fight.
He also pulled out of the Ashton Silva fight that was supposed to go down on the undercard of Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson.
Something happens once, it's an isolated incident, but when it happens twice in a short window of time, that establishes a pattern.
You pulled out on Ashton, you pulled out on Shakur, now you're demanding $2.5 million for Abdullah Mason. How do we know you're not going to pull out on him?
Look at the asking price. $2.5 million to fight a prospect is an astronomical number. It's almost like you're setting it high, not expecting to get it, so that you don't have to fight.
Mama Sko is at it again. Another chapter in the same book of talkative boxing dads that do more harm than good to their sons' careers.
Now, Floyd Schofield by himself, Floyd Schofield the fighter, is not an irritating character like some others, and he's fairly entertaining to watch in action. But he's not being allowed to develop properly because his father keeps getting him all of this negative attention.
It's not necessary, least of all at a stage in his career where he hasn't even fought for a world title yet, and he's not even in position to fight for a world title. But already, you're getting him all this negative attention.
Because you want to be the star. What I notice about a lot of these boxing dads is they're trying to monopolize the attention in place of their sons that are supposed to be getting it. They like the camera time a little bit too much, the interviews.
They like the idea of going outside and having to deal with a rabble of paparazzi waiting to ask them questions, the fleeting sense of celebrity, when really it's about their kids, not them.
They can't seem to tell the difference, relishing in the opportunity to get all of this attention. That's what we see from Teofimo's father, Devin Haney's father to a lesser extent, and of course, Mama Schofield.
The guy talks too much. You know that we never would have known that Floyd Schofield was back in the gym the following Monday after he pulled out on Shakur, if not for Mama Sko talking too goddamn much.
You made your son look bad doing that by saying that he's back in the gym on Monday after pulling out of the fight the week before because he was so terribly ill, so terribly sick. Couldn't have been that bad if he was back in the gym on Monday.
It's the kind of guy you let him talk, he'll get the whole block locked up.
And he's still at it, because now he's given it away that they've received an offer for an Abdullah Mason fight, and the asking price is $2.5 million. Does it happen? I don't know.
If they do fight, I've got Abdullah Mason, and I've got Abdullah Mason by way of knockout. I feel that Abdullah has a higher ceiling than Floyd Schofield.
But defensively, they both could use some work. Defensively, they've both hit the canvas before. They both have. But I feel that Abdullah is a bit better. So if they do fight, I've got Abdullah.
Now, let's see if they do fight.
As it pertains to another fight that may or may not happen, the clock is ticking. Jaron Ennis won't stick around to unify remaining titles, at least not according to his father. Atlantic City. Derek Bozy Ennis has warned Brian Norman Jr. and Mario Barrios that his son, Jaron Boots, is ready to move to junior middleweight if they resist fighting him next. Boots Ennis excelled in stopping the previously undefeated Amon Testanionis in 6 rounds at the Boardwalk Hall this past Saturday, and in victory, he unified the WBA and IBF titles. His victory and the destructive nature of his mature performance also established him beyond doubt as the division's leading fighter, and post-fight, his promoter Eddie Hearn revealed his desire to match him with Norman Jr., the WBO champion, in Ennis's home city of Philadelphia later in 2025. It is perhaps significant that Matchroom's Hearn, who also promotes England's Conor Benn, a potential future opponent for Barrios, favors Norman Jr. instead of the WBC champion. But above all else, the promoter insisted that he is determined to deliver to the 27-year-old the other welterweight champions so that Ennis can win all 4 titles before his anticipated move up in weight.
Eddie wants to do the fight in Philadelphia. To do that, he's gonna have to come out of pocket more money. What he may be thinking to himself is they can draw a rather large crowd in Boots Ennis's home city, but the caveat is, to do that, the Normans are gonna ask for more money.
It may be a better idea to bring Boots Ennis back to Atlantic City, which is at least a more neutral location than the city of brotherly love. At that proximity, all of Boots' hometown fans in Philadelphia could still make the drive down to Atlantic City to be there, and it would be a more neutral location that would get the fight done.
And time is of the essence.
Post-fight, he and Ennis Sr. spoke of the relative comfort which he had made it for the 30-year-old Stanionis, but the father and trainer of who is also the new Ring Magazine champion is adamant that they ain't gonna stick around. Not too long, he told Boxing Scene when asked how long Ennis Jr. had left at welterweight. Not too long. Once we collect these belts, we'll move up. It's possible if we get them fights. If not, I don't know if we're gonna stick around or not. I don't think we're gonna stick around. If we can't get them belts, we ain't gonna stick around and wait for these guys. It's gonna be a struggle to make the weight in the future. He's getting older. He's getting older. The older you get, it's hard taking that weight off. But he knows how to do it. I taught him from the beginning how to take that weight off without being weak. At the same time, reminding these other champions they don't have forever to make a decision.
I've said it in previous videos and I'll say it here again. Boots and Brian Norman are practically on the same schedule. Brian Norman fought not but a few weeks ago on the undercard of Mayer versus Ryan 2, and of course Boots fought this past weekend. So ideally, you could do the fight and should do the fight over the summer months. Boots himself did not sustain any damage from Stanionis in that fight. He dominated the whole thing, won all 6 rounds, and forced Stanionis to retire in his corner. So he should be good to fight in, say, July or maybe the beginning of August.
It's all contingent upon how much more time Team Norman wants to waste posturing and doing videos, making the rounds on the podcasts.
I've said it so many times already that this is their best bet to make big money. And even if it is a fight they stand a good chance of losing, Brian Norman is young enough that losing to Boots is not the end of the world.
He's 24 years old.
If you go in there and you give a good account of yourself, even in defeat, you can recover and raise your value. And because we all know that Boots isn't going to stay at welterweight very long, the titles he wins he will eventually vacate, at which point you can pick one up. Pick one or some of them up.
Do you remember when Danny Jacobs fought Triple G? Gave a great account of himself. And after that, he kept making money. More money. Became IBF champion. Himself. Got a Canelo Alvarez fight.
And that was all from the spirited effort he gave in the Golovkin fight. The same could apply to Brian Norman.
But if they are more comfortable doing interviews and talking to podcasters than making money, actually making money, you can't underestimate how stupid people are.
Boots leaves this division, nobody's gonna offer you nothing. You know, Ryan and Devin and Tio, they could do a round robin amongst themselves, all without dealing with you, if that's what you're thinking, that you can always fight one of them.
Says who?
If Ryan beats Rolly, he then moves into a Devin Haney fight. If Devin loses his fight, Ryan moves into a Jose Ramirez fight. While that's going on, Teofimo might eventually move up and fight the winner of that fight.
This is all without any of them having to deal with you, so you better think it through. You better think it over.